Level 3 is a quick charge, and these are substantially higher voltage. These are 500 volt direct current. They can take as low as 15 to 30 minutes. They cost substantially more, and they're intended for professional development, professional commercial use. These charging stations can be established in your home. The level 1, for example, can be put in your garage or in your driveway. There are charging stations available to the public, a few of them down at the World Trade Center downtown that PGE has purchased. The state has initiated a program to try to develop 2,000 publicly available charging stations throughout the state by the end of next year. Some of these would be free, some of them you'd have to pay for the electricity. They'd be at stores, they'd be along the streets just like parking meters. Even the ones you pay for, it would cost substantially less than what you pay for a tank of gasoline. One of the companies in Wilsonville, Eaton, makes quick chargers. And for 10 minutes, a 10-minute charge will get you 50 miles. That's 50 miles. So it's a little bit longer than a gas station fill-up, but not much more. The goal is to try to keep reducing these costs, keep reducing the inconvenience, so you can either charge your car at home overnight or charge it during the day when you're working. So that people have confidence that they can get around, because even with 100 miles, you're going to need to charge a car once or twice a week, even if all you do is city driving. So we're making real progress there. We're going to see a lot, I think a lot more of these cars in the coming years. But even with this, even if we have thousands of new electric vehicles and plug-in vehicles, we have a long way to go. In Oregon alone, we have 3 million vehicles, 3 million gasoline vehicles. We have almost one for every person in the state, including the children who are underage who aren't supposed to be driving. Electric vehicles, while we expect them to grow, it's going to take a long time before they have a huge dent in terms of our overall oil and energy consumption. So what else do we have? There are other important pieces as well, and I want to touch on those just briefly. We have compressed natural gas. Natural gas for trucks and buses. Portland Airport, all the buses and the delivery trucks and maintenance trucks out there run on natural gas. The bus system in Salem, Chariots, runs all its buses either on natural gas or biodiesel. The advantage of natural gas and the disadvantage, you have limited range, so you need to come back to a central fueling station each night. When you do that, then it works very well. So we have delivery truck companies like UPS are using natural gas in their trucks. You don't have the smog emissions. You still have some greenhouse gases, but you don't have other emissions. And if you get behind a natural gas bus, it's light and day compared to being behind a normal diesel-powered bus. We also have biofuels. We have ethanol and biodiesel. In Oregon, E10 or 10% ethanol and B5 or 5% biodiesel are now required by state law in all fuel that's sold in the state. The ethanol comes from corn in the Midwest, and most of it's 10% mixture for cars, although cars can and vehicles can take perhaps as much as 20% ethanol and 20% biodiesel without changes in the equipment in the car. There's some disagreement over that, but the 10% runs and appears not to have any significant problems. Ethanol is controversial, but it's had some benefits. It's definitely lowered the price of what we pay for a tank of fuel. Estimates that it's now 17 cents a gallon cheaper because of the ethanol. And we use 10% less oil as a nation than we would otherwise. And ethanol is cleaner than most of the, in terms of most of the pollutants that gasoline causes by having a combination ethanol and gasoline mixture. There is some controversy. There's questions about the net energy value of ethanol. Does it take as much or more energy to create ethanol fuel as it does just using gasoline alone? Most of the studies I've seen indicate that there is a net benefit, although it's a reasonable question to ask. It's fairly close. You do have the fact that you're reducing the use of oil and that it's cleaner. We also don't usually, in asking that question, ask the same question of oil. What's the net energy value of creating gasoline? We don't get regular gasoline, high test, and premium gasoline popping right out of the ground and right out of the oil gushers. It takes a substantial amount of energy to refine and produce those petroleum products. There's also concern about the impact of using corn for fuel versus the cost of food. And I think there's some truth to that, although the price of oil itself probably has a bigger impact on rising costs of food. Where we want to go in Oregon ultimately is using cellulosic ethanol. That's ethanol from forest and farm wastes. There, the net energy benefits are much, much clearer, much higher energy return. You don't have the questions of diverting a food stock. And the potential for use of ethanol on a larger scale would be much larger if we're able to use forest and farm waste, and you're dealing with a pollution problem as well. The costs are coming down for cellulosic ethanol, but it's still more than regular ethanol. It's about twice as much now, twice the cost as it was as standard ethanol, but again, those costs are coming down from where they were a few years ago and rapidly dropping. A couple of other important things. Energy efficiency. And I mentioned vehicle standards earlier. We updated our vehicle standards in the 1980s. We haven't changed them since then until just recently. It was only with the Obama administration that new mileage standards have begun to be updated. We need to do a lot more. Mass transit. Mass transit's very important. One bus in Salem eliminates 110 cars, and I'm sure in Portland it replaces a lot more. Carpooling is important. TriMet tells us that as many people carpool in the Portland area as take their buses or ride the TriMet system. So carpooling is very important. In Oregon, we've avoided over 300 million miles, vehicle miles, through efforts like mass transit, carpooling, and telecommuting that would have otherwise occurred. Finally, there's an important role for how we get our electricity, going back to electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are so much cleaner than gasoline-powered vehicles that if you have a coal plant, which is our dirtiest form of energy, generating the electricity that fires, that feeds the batteries and recharges them for electric vehicles, you still come out ahead in terms of air quality in most cases than you would just from gasoline-powered cars. But nevertheless, the more electricity that can come from renewable energy, the better. And in Oregon, we've been promoting renewable energy for not only fuels but also electricity. We now have over 2,000 megawatts of wind operating in Oregon, just off the gorge, up the next 100 miles just south of the gorge, out of sight of most of that area. Oregon's now the #4 state in terms of wind energy in the country. We're in the top 10 for solar. We're promoting solar and biomass as well. So that if our electricity, if we're going to see an increase in electric vehicles and an increase in demand, we want that demand met with electricity. That's renewable energy. So let me mention just a couple of other points. Clean energy is good for business and good for the economy.